Hi, everyone. I am Wendy Darling, and I am here bringing you another miraculous moment. And this is a little bit of a miracle in itself. And I'm so excited because actually I am getting to have the miraculous gift of interviewing one of my besties, one of my closest, longest, I hesitate to use the word oldest, not meaning she's old. We've just been really good friends for a very, very long time. And so let me just tell you a little bit about LaRue Eppler. And I'm actually going to read it so that I make sure to stay within the box and behave myself and do her the justice that she so deserves. LaRue Eppler has been a personal growth facilitator for 32 years. In the past 32 years, LaRue has facilitated over 50,000 one-on-one transformational sessions with clients from around the globe, including Emmy and Grammy winners. She's the developer of the EvoK method, a rapid change technology she uses with her clients. She also trains and certifies others in the EvoK method. LaRue is a co-author of Your Essential Whisper, 6 distinct ways to recognize, trust, and follow your inner guidance with absolute certainty. She is also a contributing author to Embracing Your Power by Marcia Clark, coming out November of this year, 2021. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my one and only sweetest bestie friend, Miss LaRue Eppler.
Thank you, Wendy. It is a joy to be with you, and how fun. We've never done this together like this before, although we both do interviews. So it's a lot of fun, and I love miracles, and I love you, and I love talking about this. So thank you for the honor of inviting me.
Well, I very much wanted you to be a part of this. First of all, because, well, I just love you. And secondly, you are such a role model of living a miraculous life. LaRue and I met in the 90s. LaRue's in my memory many times about a lot of different things. And
29 years ago, something like that.
yeah, isn't that amazing? And our boys were just little guys. And they, by the way, they were like brothers. They used to play, and they also used to get into a lot of mischief, but that'll be a conversation for another time. And I remember first meeting LaRue, and I recognized there was something so special and unique about her. And I loved how she was living her life. I loved how she was doing her work. And she actually helped me during a very tender time in my life. And so she has been not only my best friend, but she also mentored me. And we still to this day support each other in our businesses and our lives, which is such a gift and a blessing. And I consider her my forever friend. She knows my closest circle of friends. It's like, we're friends, and you need to know, once you got me as a friend, hard to get rid of me. And thank goodness she hasn't tried. So for that, I'm most grateful.
You're
So
a
let me just
lovely human who wants to get rid of a lovely human, right?
So LaRue, this is about miraculous moments. And I know that we could probably go on for weeks, if not months, sharing miraculous moments that you alone have experienced, having been blessed to have supported so many people already in your career. So first of all, because miraculous holds a lot of different meaning to a lot of people. Some people think it's impossible, it's big, it's large. What does miraculous mean to you?
I love that question. To me, like you said, it could be large, it could be small. But to me, a miracle is something, the grace that gives you something that you want or need. Maybe you don't even know that you need it. Sometimes maybe you do, but that just appears um, probably without a lot of effort on your part, and you may not, or I speak for myself, I may not even believe it's possible, but I'm somehow graced that anyway. I mean, my life's work is a miracle. It was given to me, and I was so lost, it seemed impossible. But it just seems like it's something that comes from some other place that's beyond what my egoic mind could ever conjure up or figure out, but somehow makes its way into my life anyway.
Yeah. So what I want you to share with everyone is how this all started, because I love this story. I have heard it more than once and it never gets old. So will you share what happened? And I'll just tip you off with the phone call.
Okay. All right, everyone. So here we go. So back in the early 90s, sorry, I had to reposition myself there. In the early 90s, I started this before I had a mobile phone. I didn't yet have one. I didn't get a mobile phone till like 1993 or 94, somewhere in there. And so it was a little bit just before that. I could be in the grocery store and hear a phone ringing, and this was before people had phones. I mean, you can hear that in the stores, but this was back in the day when it didn't happen. I would hear my home telephone ringing, and it was as clear as though it was right there, but yet I was at the grocery store. I could be in California, my home in Texas, and I could hear my home phone ringing. Was I really hearing my home phone ring? Probably not. But what I'm saying is the phone was as real as though it were right there and I could pick it up. And this went on for about 6 months. And I mean, it would happen and I wouldn't think a lot about it. I would just, I mean, what do you do with that? Like, what do you do with it? You do nothing with it other than, wow, that's weird, and then go about your business and, pay for your groceries or whatever, right? And then one day I ended up in a workshop about 6 months later. And this man said that he taught us all these things about the soul, and he said that our soul lives in our heart center, and if you put your attention there and you talk to it, it will communicate with you. And he led us through these strange breathing exercises where you put your eyes up and you breathe, and I thought I was going to hyperventilate and fall out of my chair. And finally he said, now because what he was doing was getting the busy mind to slow down with the breath, and then oxygenating the body with the breath so that you're pure, alive, vibrating being, right? And he said, now put your attention on your heart center and ask your soul what it wants you to know. So I'm going, I'm very flippant. I go, okay, soul, so what do you want me to know? I'm expecting nothing, right? Very flippantly like that. And I heard a voice, and it was a silent voice inside me. And it said to me, I've been calling and you haven't answered. And then I had a flashback of all 6 months of those phone calls, and I went, oh my God. And I said, and I knew that was my soul trying to get my attention. And I said, oh, you mean I can talk to you? And it said, I'm always here for you. And I didn't know that I could have a dialogue with my soul. And so it told me to go home and write. That was on a Sunday night, and so of course I didn't. I went home and I didn't write. And a couple of days later, I ran across a friend, and I thought she was a little wacky because she talked to angels. I believe in angels, and I've evolved since then. But here she is, this PhD, this smart woman, and she's talking to her angels every night. She'd get in her bed and she would journal and talk to her angels. And she said, oh, I saw her at some meeting. She said, oh, LaRue, I have something for you. This is a couple of nights, 2 or 3 nights after I was told to go home and write. And she got her little spiral bound notebook. She ripped out the pages, and it was dated that Sunday night. And it said, LaRue was instructed to write this, but she chose not to. So you're going to write it for her instead. And I was like, oh my God, like if I needed another confirmation that this invisible intelligence that was somehow trying to get through to me that I was still ignoring, even though I had that experience at the workshop. It was going to do everything it could. And that got my attention. And then after that, I started hearing poetry that was messages for my life at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And if I didn't get up and write it down, it was coming from my inner voice. If I didn't get up and write it down, it would repeat like a broken record all night long, over and over and over.
Oh my gosh.
So I learned I had to act on it. I had to get up and write it. And then I would marvel as the weeks and months would unfold, and I would go back and read some of the poems. I'm like, oh my God, this was exactly what was happening in my life. But it was so entertaining to me because it was poetry and whatever. And it really just put me on this path. I didn't try to be intuitive. I'd never been intuitive. I mean, I guess I had been my whole life, but I didn't know, and it had gotten conditioned out of me through life experience and stuff. But that's how I began this whole journey of really this divine relationship with my deepest self.
Which I think is extraordinary. You know, one of the things that I love also, well, first of all, that you have the gift that you literally hear guidance. And for those people that are listening to this, I am not one of those people. I have always been somewhat envious of LaRue because she literally can hear guidance. Mine occurs very differently. Mine's a feeling, a knowing. And every now and then I'll get a picture or a snap or a word, or every now and then I will hear something, but that is rare. And excuse me. And so I think, and that's also something that you have brought out in your book and in your work with other people, that there are a variety of ways that we receive guidance. So I didn't want people to be discouraged, because I for the longest time I was like, but I want to be like her. Talk to me. And I just didn't get it.
Exactly, Wendy. And I know we've talked about this many times, but you know, for some people, the voice, I knowing, when you have that feeling and you know it, you just know I'm to go this way or avoid that, or whatever the knowing is I think powerful, because it's a feeling. It's felt in your body. It's beyond the head. It's so easy to get into words. We're all hooked into too many words anyway. We're all thinking way too much. Why it came through to me that way, I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm glad you brought that up, because it's true. People, they do say, I don't hear my inner voice. And how do I tell the difference between the head and the voices in my head and the voice of my intuition if they're hearing the voice? Well, the voice of intuition versus the head is always busy. It's logical. The voice of your soul or your intuition, it just tells you what, and it doesn't tell you why. Hardly. It's just, and then you act on it, and then you find out the why. The head's telling you why, and it wants it to make sense. So that's how you can tell the difference between that. But you know, you can see your guidance. You know, I have like flashes of images. They're just flashes. They come from the upper. It's not a straight ahead one. It's one that flashes diagonally like that. And I've learned that that's always guidance. You know, you can hear it, you can communicate with it, sometimes it comes in taste. Very rarely for me, but sometimes I'll have a weird taste and I know there's a message trying to get through to me. Or, you know, I was working with a client once, you know, by phone. He was in Atlanta, and I live alone, or was living alone at the time. And all of a sudden I could smell cigarette smoke. And I said, it's the weirdest thing. I smell cigarette smoke. And my client said to me, I am dying for a cigarette right now. Light up. I don't care, you know, but it can come in any way.
Yes. And I know that a lot of times for me, when I get into that space, I write, and it comes through writing.
Yes.
And so it really depends. And I think that's the journey. After my accident, you know, we now know I had a brain injury. We didn't know that initially. And I think that that was really a gift because this really wasn't working all that well. And it allowed my heart to really expand and grow and dial up. And that's when my feeling and knowing and my ways of my intuition really started to develop to where today it's much more natural. So anybody that's listening and watching us today, please know that if you want to cultivate your intuition more, it's a practice, it's a muscle, just like going to the gym. You can't expect that you go to the gym the first day. Maybe you can, but I certainly couldn't, start lifting 250 pounds. It just takes practice, and you begin to be able to distinguish between what's intuitive guidance and what's your mind, what I call trying to make mischief in the scenario. So I think that's really important. So LaRue, also tell them, because I love how things fell into place even with your body of work. Because like me, you did not go to school to learn a lot of what you do.
No, and I'm not even sure they teach it in the university right now in any way. Well, let's see. Where do I begin? How I got to my work was I'd given birth to my son, and I had postpartum depression for 2 or 3 years. And one day I was so depressed that I'd planned my death. And the moment I put the final piece into my planning, this was before I heard the voice. This was like 2, 3, 4 years before I had that experience. I talked about the phone ringing earlier. But the moment I decided, okay, I'm going to do it on this day, and this is how I'm going to do it, I now know it was an intuitive experience. I knew it was profound, but I had this, I can't say it was a voice. It was a transmission. I'm going to put it into words, but the words were, if you kill yourself, your son's going to be raised by the same people who raised you, and you haven't turned out very well. And until that, it took my breath away. Until that moment, I never considered the impact on my son because I was in such pain. All I wanted to do was get out of the pain. I just wanted to end it. And so I hadn't even thought about the impact on him. And I loved him. He was so beautiful, so amazing, the most amazing thing in my life. And I knew in that moment that I couldn't do that to him. And I remember the next thought that came to me is my only option is to get well. And I sat there looking out, I was outdoors, I was looking up in the sky, and I said, you know what, God, I don't know what well looks like or how to get well, but it's the only option. And when you make a decision like that with your whole heart and your soul, it's not a mental thing, it's a whole being thing. People and places and things that they put in your life. And I don't know exactly how long. Some months later, I was living in Oklahoma. I ended up in Texas, manifested a place to live and house sit. And that's how I got out of that little Oklahoma country town into Texas. And the people I was house sitting, they were traveling, and I was keeping their daughter, and I could hardly wait for them to leave town. We arrived on a Thursday, and I want to go back up to that a little bit. So when I decided, like it's time for me to get my life together, one day I got a call from a woman who lived just outside of Dallas. And she said, my husband and I are traveling with our work, and we're looking for someone to live in our house and take care of it and take care of our daughter while we travel. And I said, come and get me. And 3 hours later, she picked my son up, and I put his toys and clothes in the car. He was 2 years old. Yeah, he's not quite 3. He was 2 years old. And I got my purse with $3 in my wallet, and off to Texas we came. And that was on a Thursday. They left town on Sunday morning. I could hardly wait. And when they drove out of the driveway, I walked into the living room and I threw my arms up in the air. All right, God, there's something very powerful about this position. For those of you who are listening, this is a surrender position. This was instinctive. And I said, God, I'm ready to start my life now. What do you want me to do? And these words came to me: call the court reporting school. And so I got the yellow pages. We didn't have Google back in the day. And I wrote a list of court reporting schools in Dallas. And on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I was sitting there making my first phone call. And so I did this interview over the phone with this guy, and he invited me to come into the school or whatever. And we just happened to mention, I've been reading A Course in Miracles in the closet in Oklahoma, because you don't, where I was raised, you don't read such things, right? Only the Bible is read. And I didn't even know the word metaphysical. I didn't even know what to ask. I just knew I was different from people. But by the way, I would read the Course in Miracles. I didn't have a clue what it meant. I have no idea. All I knew is I couldn't not read it. And now I know it was talking to my soul, and it was awakening things in my soul. And so I've been asking the universe, I want people like me in my life, whatever that means. I want people like me. So the court reporter somehow brought up that he had started a group in A Course in Miracles. And on my first phone call in Texas, I found my people, because I started going to that group, and I did not become a court reporter. But through that group of people, I met a woman, and she hosted an event where they demonstrated the work that I do today, because I later trained with these people. And my friend went to it the week before, and she said, oh, this is what you're looking for to change your life. She went to a free demonstration. And I felt it. And I felt like a kid the night before Christmas. Like my soul was so happy, because it knew that it was true. It recognized truth resonates. And so I could hardly wait for a week for the next. She said, no, when you go, she said, you need to, when they ask for a volunteer to demonstrate their process on, I want you to have your hand ready to go. She said, because you've got experiences, because I had no money to go pay for a session, right? So I could hardly wait for the weekend. I got there early, and before anyone else, now teaching workshops, like, God, you don't want people who are 30 minutes early, because you're setting up, you don't have time to talk to them. I was there 30 minutes early, right? Because I was ready to change my life. So she handed out this a questionnaire with 10 true or false questions on it. And I just sat there, and I remember making a decision. Am I talking too much? Am I getting, I promise I'll get to what, okay. All right. So, so I remember sitting there making a conscious decision of, I'm going to answer these questions as honestly as possible. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, let me tell you, because back in the day, I was in my late 20s, I would buy Cosmopolitan magazine. You know, there's little quizzes in there. Well, I always lied on those. I know it's funny. It's actually very sad, but it's funny. Because what's sad about it is why I lied. Because see, I would leave it on my coffee table because I wanted to look all chic and cool and whatever, right? And so if you came over and you happened to flip through my magazine, if I'd answered them honestly, you would know what a horribly flawed human I was. That's very sad, right? So I would say the acceptable answer so that you would think well of me, right? So that night, I made a decision to answer as honestly as I could. And so then later in the evening, she's, talking about her process and doing some, background information. And then she says, now I want to ask for a volunteer to come up with my hand. I mean, no one else had an opportunity to, even think about whether they wanted to go up or not. And so up went my hand. She brought me up front, and she said, get your piece of paper. We're going to answer those questions. I said, oh no, I've already answered them. And she said, oh no, darling, remember the power of what I do is we talk to your unconscious mind, and we find, because there's a disconnect. What we consciously, think and believe is right. And so I went, oh, phew, thank God I've been honest, because I was about to be busted in front of all the audience, right? So she does this thing called muscle testing. I now call it truth testing, because we're looking for the truth in you, right? And what's really going on in your unconscious mind. And so she's doing this testing, also called applied kinesiology, for those of you who are familiar with that. And she's answering the questions, but I don't know what the answers are. I'm just like, okay, cool, I was honest. And then she finished it, and she looked at me and she said, well, LaRue, you have 9 out of 10 wrong, according to your unconscious mind. I was flabbergasted. I mean, I was just stunned because I'd been as honest as I could. And I had this flash. I just thought of my life, of these major decisions I made in my life. And I would think, I just felt like I was making the right choice. And then I would fall on my face. Like it would never work out. Like 9 times out of 10, like my choices didn't turn out. And I went, oh my God, what I consciously believe and think is not the same as what my unconscious, and the unconscious is the one that matters. It's the one that's running the show. And I remember just being like in awe, like, oh my God, finally a way to get this and this to align. For me to find out who am I? What's going on back here? And what can I do to change it? I left that evening knowing that what that woman did was what I was put on this earth to do. I knew it was going to change my life. I knew it. Talk about a knowing. You talked about that earlier. It wasn't a voice. I knew it. And I knew it was my calling. And I had no money for the training. And it started in about a week. So I called up the woman and I said, look, I have no money. Here's my situation. I know I'm to do this. If you will train me when I open my office, I will pay you back. And she did, and I paid her back. So in 4 months' time, I was a transformed human. Now, was I perfect? No. Did I still have but all those blocks that had held me back, those things that made me feel like I was a little bitty, tiny, worthless human, was gone. And I graduated on a Sunday night. And I went home and I wrote on a piece of paper because I went, okay, it's time for me to start seeing clients now. And as going through my training, I knew I was not just there to change my life. I was also there to help change other people's lives. And I was telling my friends who were in the class, I had no money for marketing, right? So I knew that if you gave something away and it was good, they would have to tell other people. If I changed someone's life, if I made a difference in someone's life in one session, they would have to tell others. And I knew that if this worked for me, because I was one of the most messed up people on earth, if it could transform me, it could work for anyone. So I was totally convinced it would work for others, right?
And that's an important point right there.
Say more.
That you were convinced. You knew that it would help other people.
I knew because I was messed up and I knew I was not the same. I went out of my first class because in class, you're learning how to do the technique, but you work with a partner and the partner is working on you. So it's really you're healing and you're unlearning a bunch of stuff that you didn't need to know in life, all those beliefs, right? I walked out of class that first night and I knew something was different because the world looked different. I knew I was seeing the world through new eyes for the first time since I was probably born the first time, right? So I went home that night from graduating and I told my friends, I'm going to give away 10 1-hour sessions, 1 hour to 10 different people. And that was my marketing plan that I knew they'd have to tell people. And that was it. So I went home and I wrote down, because I thought, well, I need an office. Okay, I have no money, I have no credit. Okay, so I'll work out of this apartment here, my boyfriend's apartment. And I wrote down, I now manifest the perfect office for the perfect price, the perfect location, the perfect working conditions. Thank you, God. And the phone rang. And I got up and went to the phone and answered. And there's this woman named Roz Burnham. And Roz said, my name's Roz Burnham. I'm friends with Mary and Mary Austin, who was in my class. And she said, Mary tells me you're giving away free sessions. Do you have any of those available? And I said, yes. And she came over on Tuesday and I did this session for her at the dining room table. And at the end of the session, she said, my God, I've spent 7 years in therapy trying to get to what we got to in an hour today. She said, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to office out of your home? Or are you going to have an office? And my soul was teaching me, like just through feelings and knowing. It was like, I knew not to speak my limitations. And I said, no, I'm going to have an office. I didn't say, well, but I said, no, I'm going to have an office. And she said, LaRue, I'm a nutritionist. I'm very successful at what I do. I've been doing it for 7 years. I office with an MD and 2 acupuncturists, and we just had a psychologist move out of our office on Friday. Would you be willing to trade me sessions for rent to make it established?
And I want you guys to know this is just the tip of the iceberg of everything that just has kept falling into place for LaRue. She has never had to really market. It's all been word of mouth. Yes, she did connect with some very influential people that just had huge.
But I didn't connect with them, excuse me. The universe connected me to them
Yes.
through fluke accidents.
Miraculous moments.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can see why I wanted you to meet my sweet friend, because she really does demonstrate what's possible when you surrender, when you believe, when you
Trust.
when you trust. Absolutely. And that's when the waters really do part, because she and I both believe and know and live that you are meant for something special. And we have been both gifted we have some similarities, but we also have differences also in the way we work, to remove that which is not you and really infuse you and align you so that you can be living these happy, healthy, fruitful, miraculous lives, and that you're thriving and people benefit from who you are in the way you express yourself in the world. And that's what makes it so very special. So my sweet friend, what do you want to just tell these people as we kind of wrap our time together up? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to consider? What would you like to share?
I believe that we do all the things we do in life. We want to achieve things, have things, do things, be things, because we want to be at peace inside. And I think it's fun. I think we do those things. I think we're here to be doers as well as beers, right? Just remember what we're going for and let that voice of peace guide you on this journey, because the voice of the soul, your intuitive voice, the voice of God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't care what you call it. It is the voice of peace, and it knows in the space of peace, we know our next move. We know so maybe we don't know the next move, but we know not to do that, what we were considering, right? And I will leave them with what the man who taught me how to listen to my soul said is, when you take actions in faith, the universe supports you. And I learned to live that mantra. When I take actions in faith, the universe supports me. And it does. And I think more than ever, we need to listen here more than the voices in our head and the voices in the outer world, especially the chaos in the world right now. Bring the attention inward and listen.
And I appreciate you saying that, because that's even part of the reason I'm doing this. We're at a very pivotal, tender time in our world. And we need all of you wonderful people that are listening, that are watching us right now. We know that you have something special, and we want to support you in any way that we can so that you can, in fact, thrive. And not only that you're thriving, but we know that you have something to empower others as well in your own unique way. And whether it is in terms of you with your family, your pet, You know, it could be your career, your business, whatever it is, you have something special to contribute. And we are wanting to support that in any way possible. So LaRue, tell people how they can reach out to you.
Well, my website is LaRueEppler.com. That's LaRueEppler.com. That's the best way to reach me.
And this was a treat. We did it. We did our
I didn't
first.
talk too much. I just started, but you turn me on and off I go, don't I?
I know, it's okay. I love it. We know each other. But that's why I wanted you to be a part of this journey that I'm taking people on for waking up more miraculous moments, realizing so much is possible. And in a time where it is tender, where people are more challenged right now, where there's a lot happening in our world that is challenging, disruptive, disheartening. You know, we could use lots of adjectives. There's still opportunity. And we want to make sure that all of you have yours. So my sweet friend, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this. You know, I think we've behaved ourselves relatively well. You need to know, LaRue and I have had many, many years of heartache and challenges, but oh my God, a whole lot of laughter and fun. And I am so blessed. And I've said to LaRue many times how good God was to put us together.
So true.
And so for that, I'm forever grateful. Okay, everyone, thanks so much. Share what this message meant for you. If you have a miraculous moment that you would like to share, please let me know. I would love to interview you or at least share your experience. And I wish all of you just a phenomenal, phenomenal day and life. Take care.